Good morning,
Good morning.
good morning.
Muy buenos días, Lama,
Yeah.
desde México.
From Mexico.
Muchas gracias
Thank you very
Gracias.
much
por
Yeah.
bondad
for your kindness,
en darnos
Thank you.
estas preciosas enseñanzas
giving us these precious teachings,
que
Ya,
son
thank
la
you.
esencia del camino.
which are the essence of the path.
Se lo agradecemos mucho a todos los
We
practicantes
really thank you, all Mexican Sangha and all the USA Sangha too.
Yeah, thank you,
Centro
everybody. Thank you.
En México, Gancho Guampolín le da la bienvenida a todos y a todas que están participando en estas enseñanzas, tanto en México como en otros lugares.
We welcome all the Sangha and ¿qué más dijiste?
Le damos las gracias a todos los de habla hispana y de
Sí.
Estados Unidos.
We thank you, everybody, to be here, and we are waiting, Ina.
Yeah,
Just-
thank you. Good morning. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, we fair. Ina.
She's not here yet. Let me see.
Yeah, okay.
She's here, but she's here as a participant.
Huh?
Okay, I think.
Okay, now it works. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
that's jamru simchi to donas, ba.
Mhm.
No, not only share she got answer to the don jamru simchi donas.
So now first let's recite refuge and the opening prayers. Can answer share segere, can share segere.
Vamos a hacer refugio.
Do you have the opening prayer, Sophia?
Yes. We do once Tibetan or
Yeah, okay.
you do from your book. We can do it from there.
Can I?
Yeah, okay.
Start.
Yeah, okay. Dala damare chibe ja no bare chibe ge darwa dang tam chi chenbe jo bare cheba tam chi je zo chibe ma nam ka don nyam be sim chen tam chi de wa dong de dong a nyor de na na me bara yang tha bara zo be Chörenbo she to bara shai dalai damvara chibe jai no bara chibe ge tarwa tang tamji awartu yo bara chiba tamji je to chibe ma nam ka dang nyambe semjian tamji dewa tang de Dungar tan che nyor de la na me bara yang da bara zo be chang ju ren bo to bara cha English.
All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Ti chi tu san ma je je par tu lunga yi son ge wa la go ro ma she par tu lunga yi son ge wa la go ro a tu te ren ne song de ni ma sang da zam je par tu lunga yi son ge wa la go ro.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Sanji chudan soji chunan la chang cho wat la ne jap sun che da ke ni lo han che ro la pen che sanji ro ba sho sanji han soji chunan la chang cho wat da ne jap sun che da he jin so jin be so nam che ro la pen che san ji ro ba sho.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Ma nam ka dan nyam be sim chen tam ji de wa dong de be ju dan den bar chor je dung ar ke ju dan che war chor je dung ar me be de wa dong me je war chor je. 年人小当你当这边当牛拉那把学姐，二妈南卡当娘的身边当街的巴当，这边就当电把学姐，东啊当东啊给就当。 Chevara chur dungar mebe deva dam me chevara chur je nyere chada ni dang cheve dang nyo la ne bara chur je.
May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
将天界同民咱人间，茶费东方用了钱，做民间的话都是坚强。盘几天光不下烂的，最大的咱们就来面。清洁老些土地间，人给门把三年讲。
Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world, your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor Vajradhara without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father Jigten Sumgun. Continually I think of no one but you. Compassionate one, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I may realize the unelaborated nature of mind.
大些不去求仙埋头长是这人间年的肩膀的，上帝亲那美的不瓦也，若苦南大心的就把修。
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields.
Om Guru Devandra Yaganarana Mandal Pardenza Soha Samchen Namje Zambatang Hello, yeah, Cheda, Cheda, Ba, Chechung, Tumon, Tikai, Chujen, Kolo, Gortu, so.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
他们可以总结小队人生中前见门道对结婚相别在这能波的我的级别个小队结为小大强材料多变上天的罗那罗当没完没上去就干不把泡沫之外结完个月了嘛能拉说完的只能结果杀中了嘛来长久身边都是蛮弄的如果跟那平凡这把也把那二的下拉说完的大家对面长久嘛头把它就把人讲说今年呢小内长久身边中华当长久身边牵动起把的时候结果跟对样当了嘛堂对面就结别了弄就结 사당 남제 연대라 보네 도리엔 장게 콤파뇨도 쇼 어드네 당아랑서 타다 디 가당가된 치종 통하샤된 류다지 가서决定보 가된 냠래 세제도 디강 마트야치 아 제티야다 티치 마로야 치트네 대 제동 제 제바보 대표제 지견송 로마제 인사를 다 추침된 제 셀랍쇼사를 제바보데 我俺的跟前光脚健身，工作了在去在学校轻松，在这边的今天留的对几，
Sultan Rinchira.
那里的就这么人钱来啥的。
We will have some teachings on the fivefold path of Mahamudra, and so for the the essence of all practices of sutras and tantras is the fivefold path, and it was written this particular text that we're going to discuss on the practice of the fivefold path, the essence of Tantra. That was composed by a disciple of Jigten Sumgön, and that disciple's name was Tsultrim Rinchen. And so for the lineage, Rinpoche says, I myself have received this teaching, the transmission and the teaching from Kenshin Guntruk Gyamtsen Rinpoche, right? Kenshin Guntruk Gyamtsen Rinpoche.
对起，真的。真的，当我让说绝对宁波，我点是他绝对宁波是那他，多就长美宁波呢，恰到是我点的。真的，当我说是强调什么的，但我话你不多瞧起，真的，我瞧的的，在他的和里他们公庙的，拉玛公庙，瞧在进步是从我瞧起的，东岸你宁波的，恰的有的是东岸你宁波。
So it is the essence of the sutras and the tantras, and the path of bodhicitta and dedication. So those two of the five, they are the essence of the sutra path, and then the Yidam, the Guru, and Mahamudra, those three, they relate to the tantric path. So.
我真的，他这趟我点写的格局品种，我点是挺就没大的嘛。这趟他上我点呢，去年历次从马唱过去的，可是呢，他不强求什么，见不什么皮头过去的。我真的你把真的也他们光过去的，真的拉玛光过去的，乔治新波光过去的，我把过去的，我唱马过去的也是，我对。
And so in the Kagyu tradition, we've given it this name, the fivefold path, but actually the fivefold path is something that essentially is practiced. We have to practice in any Vajrayana practice, because in any Vajrayana practice, we need to take refuge and we need bodhicitta, the motivation of bodhicitta. Obviously, in any Vajrayana practice, we need to practice a yidam. We also need the guru, we need to practice Mahamudra, and we need to dedicate. So any Vajrayana practice really actually practices the fivefold path. So.
我真的我点写的这几句么来的别个，身边人啦，人家公司，让你图个钱包公司也当起， 지월 자베 라마 곰스 라마지 전에 다가 동반이라 유랭생 스데 저도 신보지 제라 뭐바 제예 토 스데 제라 뭐바 지더라 nga 상다 지수말라름 파레 데리 마가주 코마도 말송네 전에 사고 뭐 제레 사고 파모 트백 지thiên 송공라다 추나 추응어원의 마제와치 상마제와 추응어원의 마제와치 선에 다 파모트면 지thiên 송공 다음에 되는 지thiên 송공 같은 공냠내 스치我在去年在罗马中了，曾吃下去呢。他接连这种阿点些，做我的用了在各局上了这种阿点些呀，差的就那个就先把它做有做在早上东年的，但这种这差这种阿点些，我听着这差的吧。
Milarepa, the way he explained the fivefold path, and so that was before actually was given that name. So he said that you have to cultivate compassion for all sentient beings. Then you visualize yourself as the compassionate one, or in other words, the deity. Then you visualize the guru at the crown, that's the guru practice. And then he said, then you sustain emptiness for a long time, and that is Mahamudra. And in the end, you dedicate your virtues, it's dedication. So it's also something that the Kagyu masters of the past, before it actually had this name, already practiced. Gampopa had practiced it, so Milarepa and Gampopa, and then later Mahamudra, he was Jigten Somgön's guru, and Mahamudra told Jigten Somgön specifically, and you must never separate from these 5 dharmas until you attain enlightenment. And then this is what Jigten Somgön practiced. And this is what he imparted on to his disciples. And then later, after that only, it became known as the Drigong Kagyu fivefold path. But actually, it is practiced in all the different Kagyu and other traditions as well. It is just that the Drigong Kagyu kind of became known for giving it this name and like laying it out in this way.
저는 냠내 다 쇼소 스데 냠스네 야 쇼소 사트라 요레 종로와 냠내 쇼소 지디
So we are now explaining the title, right? So it says practice of the fivefold path, the essence of Tantra. So the last word in the Tibetan is practice, or literally herein is contained the practice.
다테 데레 다틴 고 데레 다 마송도 테네 다트 담보 생각도 데 초바르 줘 봐서 로셔서 초바르 줘 봐서 아린도 담보 초주 지나다 제 된초들 전화 좀 야다 파티 메용데 팽그리 와 나테치도 와다 담보 데 커서다 최종 상제 참지 고송소 니스미베我觉得吧你天中呢中间这趟人家传达堂这吧出去的些他们去你妈当大把的差别当你身前他们去苦别动啊讲错情报的这位太碰情报我真的不从头这把当吃呢上节没下边六节筹备军气没别因为那么年米人保险这公办了不从头别各位差是价是起我送的吧我对他确保了就把这前两月别下头有了吧
有啦So then we go into the text. It begins with paying homage and taking refuge. So there's this verse, the first verse, and that's called the traditionally like the offering of homage. And the purpose of beginning a text with like leading into the text with this offering of homage is so that we receive the blessings of the past masters of the practice, and also so we don't encounter any obstacles. So that verse says, with devotion, I pay homage and take refuge with body, speech, and mind in the body, speech, and mind of the precious, unparalleled Drigongpa, embodiment of the non-dual wisdom awareness of the body, speech, and mind of the Buddhas of the 3 times. Unrivaled in the 3 worlds, he enjoys fame like the sun and moon pervading the 10 directions. He's a leader liberating all sentient beings from samsara's suffering, while the activities of his body, speech, and mind are inconceivable and unceasing. So.
真的他推送写人过的推送上节参起写的推送上节的那边上节毛王上节我提参起他的上节提参的去过送头过 송 토, 다 여러 구송 토스 니스미 바데 이히 뭐 워처와 데라마 다데 제레스 그 주som 상지 가르스나 가서 니들 지편 종공티 존뎁제 요티나 데둘레 종타 만면지 데둘레 종의 만면지 마오 챵바 다다 샤데 소 군이 당의 냐메르 냐베서 와데 시청마데는 뭐 지편 종공의 스테르 종 효와테인데 아지당 이些题我问的那么什么我这去了呀我是那路多少呢的那么他们去上街他们去我这去了古上头有点这去了才会啥的我去了吧我曾经天从那真大堂车吧曾经天从那真大堂车吧曾经天从公司他确就是现在作为今天总共的多想今天总共在看一下呢他的要是健康些了就那个多半就有我听到这种我的天让的现在上街拖把忙是今天中国那么让现在的上街拖把忙不的是人社区网球引起的是人社区网球赛局特别强调是8%我真的我当他妈是说是你多的嘞3年多的这有的是我在后可能就这种那在电呢今天中国中对讲我当时是在穷有嘛的是可是呢给龙bomb差这是给龙这的给龙bomb差这是这就穷有的是他们那老嘛西巴有了给龙几波了bomb差这穷有的是我真的上车吧是我真的出去今天看他们几头你妈的大娃的差吧是的出就你看啥是啥叫草马了吧你大的给他钱包这里差的是到一件事
So it starts here with in a Tibetan. So the order is a bit different in a Tibetan, right? So the Tibetan begins with the 3 times actually, which is like it's usually the other way around. So if it ends in a Tibetan with 3 times, it begins in English. So here it ends in English, Buddhas after 3 times. 3 times past, present, and future. So these Buddhas after 3 times, so this is a praise to the Guru, are inseparable. So the body, speech, and mind of these Buddhas of the 3 times is inseparable from the natural wisdom awareness of the body, speech, and mind of the Guru. So in essence, the Guru and all the Buddhas are one. Then there's a supplication, like a prayer by Jigten Sumgön himself, and in there he says, I Jigten Sumgön, I'm the Lama of like Lurik of Marme, so there's past Buddhas, basically beings, so in the future, so Jigten Sumgön is will be the emanation of those masters of Lurik, of Marme, and so on, and the disciples of the Buddha Shakyamuni, Nagarjuna, and so on, and so Jigten Sumgön, the verse of homage here actually is really an homage to Jigten Sumgön, also in a different praise, one of his disciples, Sherab Chungne, he said that, in a praise to Jigten Sumgön also, he said that Jigten Sumgön had a vast assembly of disciples. There is some with the highest realization who attain enlightenment in this very lifetime. Then there is some who attained the 10th Bhumi, and even the lowest of disciples realized the nature of the mind. And so in Tibetan history, we can actually learn that there was really no other master that had so many disciples as Jigten Sumgön had. And so it is said that he had an assembly of 100,000 fully ordained monk disciples. So that's just the monks. And then aside from that, he had many more other disciples. Yeah, so not just monks, but fully ordained monks, so bhikshu monks. Yeah, so he had 100,000 bhikshu monk disciples, and then aside from that, many other disciples as well. And so that is what is meant here with when it says enjoys the fame like the sun and moon pervading the 10 directions. So his renown pervades all of the directions. Yeah.
我咱经济来成种，搞来考过的，他话几点钟我对家庭穷有嘛，俺说但老忙不，老节假发多啥多钱呢？我设定的呢，人大堂车吧，人大堂车吧的，人对家生产产品公节，可是咱公节可以成功。公还是农行他们去 job 特别的，但这年轻的这上街头吧，我们有时拉不上，这家不就可以是，我家公他都是几块多的是这，公年是6块钱的，特别农行就做俩做俩6块钱，我推什么钱呗，那么就是他推什么钱的那边的忙他推什么钱吧，聪明那么人不去，是聪明那么聪明人不去，是吧？聪明没吧，人大有嘛的聪明这，说吧的被公完去，是说吧的那说给他那个。他做上去对吧？长期去工作，公安去给的，我这几天工作这种吧的，是那么子，我这种的话。
So then, so this praise was this praise also comes from Cherub Jungnim, and so it says then. So he said that.
我当时今年这样就是健康写了，就那开始几点钟我老妈做我去的，他这里空下成长我健康下成长我这做的嘞，他接了空几点钟我咱们的家学校嘛的，才会跟不得那能有的哦，那这个，跟不得那能有的嘛，这个那家电视讲他去有嘛的，他老妈做完的，几点钟我公去是上嘛做这个东西空的。
还得这个呢？
公去他做错，我自己做。这从嘛心里打，几点钟想心里打那些说俺做工程，他说做车切球那么这是学他们从嘛经常写了没这个。
So actually, just a few words, a bit background about Sherab Chunga. So his full name is Chenga Sherab Chunga, and Chenga actually means attendant. So he, so the attendant Sherab Chungnim. So he was a main disciple of Jigten Sumgan, also an attendant, and so he was the one who actually compiled all of his teachings, such as the Gongchik and many others. So there was all these notes that Jigten Sumgan had of his teachings. And Sherab Chungna, the attendant, was the one who compiled them or who brought them all together. So it all became this volume of Jigten Sumgan's teachings. So that was the compilation of Jigten Sumgan's work. All his words really is it's attributed to Chenga Sherab Chungna. And so Chenga Sherab Chungna, when he praised Jigten Sumgan, he said that there has never been anyone like him. So here in our text here, it says the unparalleled Jigumpa. So that's the meaning of unparalleled. So he said there has never been anyone like him. And right now, there is no one like him, and probably there will never be one like him. And now it's been like 800 years or so after he was alive. And it proved to be true. There's really no one like him, and no one who was able to gather that many disciples around him. And so it says then here in the text again, so he's a leader liberating all sentient beings. So also a leader or a protector. He's the protector, protecting sentient beings, or liberating them from the suffering of samsara, and then bringing them to the state of liberation, of enlightenment. And he's the unparalleled protector. And then if you supplicate to that guru, he will grant protection, not just temporarily, but also ultimately by bringing all beings to enlightenment. So that's the meaning of being unparalleled. He's unmatched. Also.
等呢，这大体上可能东亚讲做的前波的多少级别贴封，那生产他们记，我生产他们记，我生产他们记，但可能东亚，那说东亚是在总中你就晓得吧，七万对几东亚是，东亚是东亚是，900东亚是，我他七万对几东亚是，但生产他们也是差别的是，我这差别的是，因为这讲清楚的面，咱们出了个嘛的是别想，老很难不让笑呢，不让嘛的，老很提了我就没得有嘛的是。 每那son te madeores, tiens tu de dongat, son o chor congres. O tene chaba duji dongara. Dongara ke dongar sena ta ze dongar che yo hindu, ti gan dongar ze chunya. Pe chan da sen na nga zong go na na. On ze mei 马的用那种用多听到我听着我到东亚去东亚我到听着有些人那用个人啊什么的我在东亚去东亚我现在就是东亚现在我做基本其实我在见人办事东亚穷呀用多我听就是东亚是的我到听东亚双汤身边他们写差不多的讲说情报做吧区别贴本说的讲说现在顶上没别个下等于的他没吧是吧被加起不这是我现在顶上没别这逻辑这那么谈吧这也是那么谈吧随便做这样出于那个都相应的那种制度个让人对我所以呢当然嘛后出所以呢我这出去加完了我趁今年这那么谈吧这也是我这那么谈吧这也送的的
Ocean, genau, Ocean 对。
后边东了其中也会当过当然咱们其中也当
Yeah. English is a little different. Does it say ocean here?
三千后边东了可讲做了做吧几个贴本是了
Okay, there. Yeah, so it doesn't say ocean, but anyways, so yeah, so it says so literally. So here in our text, at least the text I have here, it says, "Liberating all sentient beings." He's the leader, liberating all sentient beings from samsara suffering. And so yeah, literally, it says like the ocean of samsaric suffering, and. So in terms of suffering, what is samsaric suffering? There's generally, we speak about three kinds of suffering. There's the all-pervasive suffering, there's the suffering upon suffering, and the suffering of change. The all-pervasive suffering is given that name because it pervades all beings, so everyone experiences the all-pervasive suffering. And all-pervasive also means that it's always a sort of there, even if it's not manifest, meaning that only if you encounter a condition do you feel it. If you don't encounter a condition, you don't notice it, but it's still there. For example, if you have a piece of hair in your hand, you don't really feel it's there, but it's there. But if that hair goes into your eyeball, you will definitely feel that. It's the same hair. So if you encounter a condition, then the suffering is noticed. It becomes manifest. We recognize it, but it's actually always there. So that's the all-pervasive suffering. Then second is the suffering upon suffering. So we all know that we have one problem, and then on top of that, we have another one coming up. For example, you have a headache, and then on top of that, suddenly your eye starts hurting. So it just keeps piling up the suffering. Then number three is the suffering of change. So for example, in the morning, you may be really happy, and in the afternoon, something happens and you're very sad. So these three kinds of suffering, they are all beings experience these three kinds of suffering. And so it's not here in this text, but this ocean of samsaric suffering. So ocean, it says ocean of samsaric suffering. So ocean here means without any center or boundary. So in other words, it shows how vast samsara is. Samsara is so vast. And he is like the life raft. Jigdasomgyal is like the lama, is like the life raft, like a ship. Or in the old days in Tibet, we just had a piece of wood, which was basically the ship that pulls us out from this ocean of samsara. So he's the liberator from the ocean of samsaric suffering. So.
真的，大国上头的这帮质量上级没吃吧？用点累积出版就没，那么说的各种头这种这帮质量，他忙不就有的上级没吃吧？有的是让些累积出版，但过年嘛，是强调什么几吧？这种突击忙那么紧的，让些分着肯用口的是对军器没办就嘛，这那么谈吧的是。我提国上头跟这帮质量的，那让些什么民族的那么来过，其他但那没办的，主要可能什么他们要。上节上他把他们前边那么国防过头个的是。
And so then it says here, so the the body, speech, and mind, the activities of his body, speech, and mind are inconceivable and unceasing. That guru's enlightened activities of body, speech, and mind are naturally, spontaneously present because they arise from his past aspiration of bodhicitta. So now they are naturally present, and are unceasing, and they're always there. And they're there to liberate self and others through ripening and liberation, the path of ripening and liberation. And he has the ability to bring us all to the state of enlightenment. So.
then that's a master do Yami Drigomba Rambochi Gusong to like Lunga is on Kubi Chancelo. So what Yami said that Yamba Miga Teleconti Parida, Ramochi, Staramochi, Jin Drigomba, and then you can on a few Gusong Tola. That goes on to La Lunga is on Kubi Chances, that Lu could be Chanceva. Not could be so one devil. That he could be Mohuchi or that and reaching the also Luke could be chancing that Luke Trebajanto, then I could be so what I'm asked by Chanto. He could be a Mohuchina, go Nelo so thought to be the Sunzi stop at the Magnon to Rotovia, or to do you what then you think could be chances, a chance in the job she was on the one.
And so the last part of this verse is actually the beginning of the English. So in the end in the Tibetan, in the end, it says, so I pay homage and take refuge with body, speech, and mind, in the body, speech, and mind of the precious, unparalleled Drikung Ba. So that part is the last part. So the Drikung Ba refers to Lord Jigten Sumgon, and I pay homage with body, speech, and mind, meaning that I pay respect with my body by through prostrating, physically prostrating. I pay respect with my speech through supplication, verbal supplication, and I pay respect with my mind through devotion. And by paying respect with the body, we purify the obscurations of the body, so through prostration. By reciting supplications, we purify the obscurations of speech. And through cultivating devotion in the mind, we realize the nature of the mind. Through cultivating devotion, and these concepts of a subject-object duality will diminish. Also.
That's a chobar jobashi. Tele Mars on the tell us that conscious no juju, mobile tempty, gay mara, massaging, Kurba Dunga, Genzo, Suros and Tomala, Tobal and Jason Jar, Nans, Nama, Jans, Lambdon Jans. What Naranso Teddy, that humble the meta was some of this time which was had. Jedam meta was some of them in Yanasia, Hassan issuing but 200 days, torch to be. 就当这偏多地说啥的，现在的这么当然我是偏多地说的，可是呢，在现在的我眼前呢，我把先把钱呢，等我说那个都养毛么在一边够家呀，让我做做呀，让我这个能一开在，但身边先把脑袋当呀，让我在现在我把先把钱呢，为了先把这钱学的，我这样对咱我让说的怎么现在怎么当然听脑去的，没他说这钱呢，要不我的，可是呢，没他说的我让说在所有小人中，这就没的。 个让一些让一些来不，这说陈宋这样在起呢，我真的陈宋的系统呢，他把身体前面了，恐怕这边上级休息啊，那偏多的，现在在前边来看些啊，那这个那么上坡在卡这边，我真的了偏多有啥的，是在那看了，我就去，我就我不产品是，我就现在呢，我咱这些产品他没他的，给这的人就往这说吧，才去，就生产产品他在哪里的。 些没得穿着长嘛，但俺嘛有来是他有嘛的，穿的人有样，他米什么来的别说，但人有那他老有嘛的是，我破产品，给这人就往这，但是家拉你是那人把抢着呀，我的，给这人就往这的是，嘛没他件，可把东儿随便通呀，通是，我真通没，头先结把炸是，我但怎么在那呢？他炸过下来，说，他可得是去血压药嘛的，他说在怎么要不这当炸过下来，送多。
So this was the verse of offering homage. And then next is called the overview here. So it begins by saying, see if the order is always different. Although one is frightened by seeing and hearing the impermanence and suffering of all outer phenomena and inner sentient beings, one busily exhausts body and mind through attachment and aversion to this life. And so in the beginning, we have to think a little bit about impermanence. I mentioned that yesterday during a different teaching. Impermanence is your support in practice. And it even actually is of benefit just in this life, in a mundane sense. Because if you think about impermanence, that thought that will interrupt or cut through your fixation to the concrete existence of this world. And because of our fixations in our mind, we do a lot of bad things. For example, we go steal from others, or we tell lies, or we hurt somebody else. So we do all kinds of negative things because of this fixation to the true existence of things. And so when we think about kind of the solid existence, and if we think about impermanence, that will decrease. So if you think about just this life, actually, that reflection on impermanence is already very beneficial. And so now thinking about impermanence is also not some kind of invention, like something we make up, but it's just the nature of things. Things are impermanent. And if you're able to think about it and remember that, it will help us to, in our practice, to kind of encourage us to practice. And ultimately, through this, we attain the state of liberation. And even in a mundane sense, we become a good person. So here it says, the outer phenomena and inner sentient beings. So the outer phenomena is the entire outer world. The universe is impermanent. It changes moment by moment. And also the sentient beings in that universe, for example, humans and animals, any being changes. What has been there before is no longer here today. Milarepa said, those who were here last year are no longer here now. And so many people die all the time. Or you have a very nice object, a nice possession, and then it gets old. Everything changes moment by moment, momentarily all the time. And so then the attachment to this life causes nothing but a descent into the lower realms, and therefore there is a frightening, go back to the beginning, a frightening by seeing and hearing of the impermanence and suffering. So if you really think about it, it should actually stir some fear in our mind, because we don't actually know when we are going to die, and that should cause a sense of urgency. So.
tene dan kura donga tichi tene jizu melare be karzong orsena ran nan jiwa wo de parde na nan jiwa wo ye yoranga su pan jus na parso dan ya ba wan jiwa wo de parde na wo meta o meta ba wo meta na parna na munda parna na mun sen na dan ga do na mun sen mu kwan dong ro ba wo de sen dong so re se te zam no ya wo na ten ro ba na mun ye ba lo me des na mun ze ye ro ge se tene lo de wo wa re so 너무 잘했어. 어때 너무 예뻐도 말이지. 단 랑리퀘스 샘 소데 랑스 샘더 소데 다지나 배상的샘스 샘마타 장케 치용的샘마타的장케 치마的치운的치우세 행동在这 파도나 치우 심바 포로 행동在这 되게 말해. 어때 랑스 샘터 반남피에 통로나 초거다 와자이나.
그래서 밀라레 바다롱 송거다.
밀라레 바로.
디 싱디 카레.
랑리퀘스 샘라 소다나 샘 소다나 别下的话，先说对对，别的开始呢，行动者基本上也是行动者在基本，行动者基本差不多呢，基本在行动体制那个嘛来是， 这实际情况跑着个哇。 我在哪里的？但俺让书包三台，可三台才在俺做书包你那三有版的我说的，这连几遍电台有嘛？这一天同着那效果哇。我开心没开心，那么多听到你口的三起了同着都的，然后最头什么都别干来都做年同着多啊。我在听着那同学啥的，这听着那别写线都多，这这人各样满足那这还能现在就做啥的话，我在用学啥的话这。 听着啥的 yes。
Yeah. So Milarepa had said that so the inner breath, your inner breath is transient. So it like momentarily it passes by. So your breath is like mist, like a kind of a morning mist that just vanishes away, and your life force is almost at its end. And so if you almost have no breath, then your life force is really exhausting itself. And so he said that so you should look at your mind. When you look at your mind and you see the impermanence of your mind being with this body, it is just like a bird sitting on a tree. So the bird sits on the tree, but it won't always stay on the tree. Eventually and momentarily, it will just decide to fly away, and then it's gone. So just like that, your mind is on that tree of your body, but maybe it will just go away and just fly away like a bird. For example, there's some people who say that now when they were asleep, that their consciousness left their body, and then it was really difficult for them to get back in. So once it just flies away, then it might be really hard actually to go back in. So therefore now we should remember impermanence. So
真的现在他恰当去理解 top， 是我的现在讲说，他恰完忙不，这些恰当，他这让巧搞完他了，恰也没个这当，真的恰当的，其实的路线 top 的，是别讲有的，路的什么你可以讲有的，他后边讲 top 的 top 现在讲有的哇，然后这只有这开始现在然后他们去然后他们去啥是。 让俺送他周围就马错的，先没是，先年着但是先没是年着他我送，说起去讲，搞多去讲是，先别我在这里多，我去讲是我真的，我当然俺送周围，就马错要马来是，我但没来的他说都去错是都俺着是，他都去错都俺着是，俺几步去听上说这，要不去后做，先弄几样着我的。 专门的这个都一套，但说也不差，其实是吧？都一套的东西，我他这个不是说前半多半斤呢，说东西面套，这绝对东西面都什么东西，然后都不差的，咱东西绝对都漂亮，都一套的东西着，这头人的块钱，我当然这不差呀，一张的块钱有的，我的那的块钱钱呢，这边就这东西嘛套用过吧的，我等于去的呢，就去嘛套没，先没是的，先我要在电脑上多。 我真的年着上10年超过了哇，年超过周末专家咱们的我说，我这时候跟我要或者要去，或者要或我这时候我送呢，在亚波去在这时候来盘到300开始美国开始去呢，说起个话去讲，我到这心里就他去的要嘛了，这时候呢，从嘛来看可别要嘛，那你那时候亚波在去，那时候亚波去他们那个去去上呢，他们推出要嘛了的。 咱们现在在做那个，先别推出，就别推呢。搞完那样没有，搞完是送的，他那边有嘛的，是开丢呢，这是现在呢，这个做这样要嘛是推出的，给些点钱是点钱啥讲是，我的给没喜欢性格的这些啥讲是，我他在哪看这个啥讲是，但这那面推那面没用是，我在哪这个那面没用是。
And so then coming back to the text, so it says, the order is just a little different in English, right? So the next part in the Tibetan is one busily exhausts body and mind through attachment and aversion to this life. So exhausting ourselves through attachment and aversion. So, for example, it's we exhaust our body and our mind by being so attached to those that we love, and hating those that we hate, that we dislike, and we have an aversion and going against them. And so this is exhausting for body and mind. And what does it lead to? It causes nothing but a descent into the lower realms. And so these forms of attachment and hatred drag us into the 3 lower realms. Then Milarepa had said that we think that we go after our own happiness. We think we're going to create our own happiness. But we do so by harming and hurting others. So what we actually accomplish is nothing but our own suffering. So thinking I'm doing this for my own good, we are actually hurting ourselves by doing that. It leads to more suffering. So then it says here in the text, so though for aeons one tries to delight and appease one's relatives, friends, and servants, one never succeeds in fully satisfying them. So we have our relatives and friends and servants, those that we love, and we do everything we can to help them, to serve them, to give, to be there for them, and in the end, they're never really fully satisfied. No matter what we do, we cannot fully satisfy them all ever. So, and then while you're doing all these things for to kind of maintain them or to satisfy them, you actually end up never having time to practice the Dharma, and this is how life then passes by. Never really actually practicing. So this is, yeah, so never fully satisfying them. Kaba partu loksong.
남이야매요 세대varsa.
Yeah, okay, that's how.
지 전에 어떤 로공 파모트에 정도가 그래서 말씀은 치바 마타서 곰 담보 개침보레스 가르스나 초는 조비 주치게레스 바르 개침보레스 가르는 존죽 짜안다고레스 존죽 짝생자라 존죽 짜안다고레스 타마 개침보레스 가르스는 치바 초코세 카토그레스 초코세 탐치게레스 타마 어떤 일이 마타서 곰 개침보레 정도와
So Mahamudra had said that impermanence, to reflect on the impermanence and death, the impermanence of this life is very important, because in the beginning, this thought will cause you to enter Dharma. Then in the middle, when you practice the Dharma, it becomes your encouragement that keeps you going on the path. And then in the end, it's also important because it is that which actually then ultimately causes you to see, to encounter the luminosity, the clear light of the Dharmakaya.
근데 다 개개 시시 땡첨들 사장 랑치베 뒤주 펜바다 동바제 장미 어전에 다 gengo 마차와 나도 표현이만 나 보고도 먹게 나도 나 gengo 알아서 깨자라고 어서 된줄라고다 나가 가지고 신나면 되게 뒤소도 동바요 말해서든 된정 오늘 레줄인도 그 당아 컵들이 요 말에 컵세나 다 내가 메디자표랑 컵들이도 요 말에 생각도 해야 되기로 어때 요 말에 저 랍종도 된정 원데 나랑서 성마된 차로게 다 개개 시시 땡첨 사장스 어때 나 내가 진비 다 얘기도 그래 가도 시고 소리 그 말에 사장스 랑치베 되네 펜바보다 요노만보 대사오나 티켓 펜바 얘기하면서 어때 지수마다 그 추보 노르클도 삼이 송마라 추보 노르클도 삼이 어때 센데 자지 누마 쟁케 봐라서 어때 센데
Milarepa karesungsong.
추보 노르클도 삼이 추보 노르클도 도사요 말다 실행 시하던 나시 마중에 디사 대본보다 이게 말디스티나 나 템테레 타리아치 지tum도 하데 티신베 템테레 타리아요 말스 노르데사요 말스 테레 센데라 Chaji can do my Jen Kajang, Kepa Chorjang, said what Cindy, then do my Kepa, Muka Yeka, Kebo, Leka, Lea, Yapo, Kepa Yore, Kepa Chorjans, Rani Shive 2, Luba Maton, Dribu Kayami, so that Rani Shive, Nekala, go the so Rani, Najaje, Najati, Rara, Lu, Kadu to so shake Marata, the Lus Mato, Dribu Kaya, your mares. Then Kepe Lord, you trust me, Laura Malaribe. Then Kepa is patient and gather. Tanga the Gesha Yambo, you. I may make you, the other can take a lady at the Chetos, your mares, Kepe Lord, you trust me, Srara. That is Sina, Kaya Mantons.
So then, see, in the text, so yeah, and so then the next thing the Tibetan says, so all of these, so the household and so on, whatever we have in this life, bring no benefit at the time of death. So we don't think about our death, but for example, when I was young in my homeland, I would hear the elders talk, and so what they were saying is that like there is no end to all the things we have to do unless we die. That's what will end all these things. Only when we die will we stop doing all these things. Until then, it's always going to be something else to do. So basically, we are distracted by all these things that we have to do in our life, all of our activities, and we completely forget about death. We don't think about death. And all of these things that we do right now will be totally useless at the time of our death. And so Milarepa had said, so when you die, then all your wealth, so this Lord of Death, when he comes to take you, then all your wealth and riches will be meaningless. He will not be swayed by all of your wealth. Now, or for example, if somebody was quite influential, like some kind of official or something in one's life, the Lord of Death will not be swayed by them, by whatever power they have, no matter what they say. Nothing will free them at this point. And also, a very learned, like a scholar that can talk themselves out, as a scholar, can't use all of their stories on the Lord of Death. He won't be deceived by what they say. So they won't talk their way out, no matter how eloquent or smart they can talk. So there's no the use for anyone to beg and to plead with the Lord of Death. There's no way to avoid the Lord of Death, even if we are very prideful and think that we always find our way out. Not with the Lord of Death. No matter what we do, it will be completely fruitless. So therefore, there's much more to it in that song, but whatever we do and have right now, there is no way to avoid death. So.
Then Dan Kepa Dan Lomba Nang Ajarke say down Tani can out Teti to Majang, say what I Kepa is Satani Lomba Najario San Kepa Najayo. Or then Najas they cheat, then that shooting on your motor some bango and Dorduna. Got the banter, Dan Kepa is on Najas sympathy, sorry. Or the name say down Tani to say Tani to Niembona you, or table on that tables and Teti Janate, or Racha on that into you. What to reach it, so what in Ranju Sem the Chadang Ranki Chadang Sempa Chema, so what the Chadang Sem to Gamaris. What in Malare, Tani Seke, Tamchunde, Loba Gala, Payonchon, what else so Ranju to Majana, Tani Sek Tamchuje Yura, Tani Sek Tamchute. How goes on? Loba Gala, Payonchons. Loba Gala, Payonchons, and Lobia, Lobionchia, Galedis, so Ranju Majana. The Pento Atira to show Maris, so Ranju Majadi, say Chilo part the Kepa and the Racha Casina, my so what not so chulo of Jonchiate, Rank Chadan Santa Marchegos, what a chair to Maris, so Tano showing Kepa, not something Najala, and do younger, yes.
Mhm. So it says then, so though one may be skilled in this life's activities and projects, the result is not but self-deception. Though one arrogantly thinks one knows it all, possessing an elegant turn of a phrase, one has not freed oneself from attachment and aversion. So there are those who are very learned Dharma scholars, and then they're very prideful. They have a lot of pride in all of their knowledge. Actually, the Dharma is the point of the Dharma, purpose of the Dharma is to abandon the afflictive emotions. But so those arrogant scholars, they don't abandon their attachment and aversion. They may say really nice, eloquent, elegant things, and it all kind of makes sense. What they say is really true. They may say really like they speak really articulate, but it is useless. Milarepa had said that if you do not actually apply all of these words to your own mind, then all of these words are really pointless. Then learning all these words is just a hardship with very little benefit. So no matter what grade of a scholar one is in the Dharma, the purpose of the Dharma is to free oneself from attachment and aversion. But those arrogant scholars, they are not able to do that, and they still think that I know all of this. I'm such a great scholar. I'm really special. So even though they speak the Dharma, they actually are full of pride. That's it.
真的几岁没来这边送我的，这开始总是秋这种什么秋季就没二气的意思。他咱开发弄的，他咱开发都是秋季的把气的东西没都也是的。他你没我这里，他秋季的气的东西没得是。
And then Milarepa also said that actually the purpose of the Dharma is to eliminate the 8 worldly concerns, but then nowadays all these great scholars isn't that exactly what they do? Is create the 8 worldly concerns?
真的，他这里头发结咱们去讲，去把他最不头发那么叫牛毛开，我把说俺家留起是我的头发有把起，开始最前最不一些，说在修最前面上，先把人通穷些啊，中，这个然后最前面长嘛，先把这要嘛的事，但通穷些啊，真的忙不有的听着，我这做长嘛人多讲，但牛毛留起的，去那牛毛那把牛毛忙都这样的，没都是俺家留起是，这几岁没来这边，你们最前面送嘛的。dat dingen maar dat zullen doen ja je zullen doen maar die gaan je wat banchen is die gaan je wat banchen他的最半多半呢恰恰忙他妈送他的最半多就是恰恰忙的东西嘛都是没来这边我这恰话忙这个忙你妈的几天恰话帮下去zullen doen我他的这个忙的东西嘛都也是的我大家都切的是啊
And so then it says no matter that one desires to be learned and saintly, this grasping, propelled by the Mara of afflicting emotions, becomes the support of just these just these emotions. And so, for example, when it comes to anything, even in the Dharma, like our learning in the Dharma or our discipline, the kind of the vows that we have, the ethical discipline, then there's many people who say that, my vows are so pure, I have perfect discipline, and then they are sort of looking down on others. And that actually happens a lot these days. People say that, I am totally pure. I have all these vows, but then all of these other people, they don't really follow the vows, and then they kind of speak badly about them. It happens a lot. And this actually, what actually happens is that the afflictive emotions actually increase more. And when actually the point is to abandon the afflictive emotions. So then also Milarepa had said that in the old days, so in times of the Buddha, no disciplines or no this vow holding was for the sake of abandoning worldly activities. But nowadays, vow holding actually leads to even more worldly activities. And then and then next it says, though one exerts oneself in virtue of body and speech, one trains in pure living. These cause clinging to this life because one misses the point of the definitive lineage. So one may think that and tell others that I'm a practitioner. I practice just like the past Kagyu masters, and then they say that, oh, but they don't do that. They don't practice. They say, like, they look down on someone. They think they are something lower because they don't really practice, and they are the great practitioners. So this is something to be careful about, because at the time of death, what then happens is that basically what you bring with you is that emotion of pride. That is still in the mind, that has not disappeared. And that's the point, because all these activities, what you do, the practices, and that you don't take that. What you take is the pride at the time of death. So. And so it says then, just as churning skim milk yields no butter, so no substance results from relying on elegant but empty phrases. So the purpose of churning milk is to yield butter. But if the butter is the milk is watered down, it will yield no butter. So before that it said, so one misses the point of the definitive lineage instructions, and then when one misses that, it is just like the skimmed milk. So the definitive lineage instructions are the instructions that were passed on by the past masters to their disciples and in an unbroken lineage. And so if one receives this lineage, but one misses their point, so one hears the words, but one misses the point of these teachings by applying it to one's own mind, then one's practice is just like you're trying to keep churning milk, you're doing it, you keep churning, but nothing comes from it. There's no butter that comes from it. It's like watered down milk. It's just like in in the past when I was stayed in the monastery in Dehradun. That's what sort of eventually happened to the milk we received from the Indians. So they would come, we would receive, the monks at the monks' quarters would receive milk. And in the beginning, in the early days, it was a good fat milk. And then slowly they kept like pouring in more and more water into the milk to get more out of it. And it just was watered down more and more. And in the end, basically everybody just got water. And if you keep churning water, obviously there won't be, and it won't yield any butter. You can do all the churning and the hardship, you can do all the practice, but if it doesn't apply it to the mind, if you're missing the point, there will be no result. That's all.
Oh, tene da tere tene oh jitimela re chung ta jagan ro lobyon chi jitimela re ka song se chung ge gomche den do re ba la se gom ja ne den hei so bia den re ro ya tan do le gom ja so bia re ba chi pe chung sa ma la dong qian ham do chung so dong qian ham do na ce ta ni ma bo yo ya wa le se ha ka re san ro ne ham fei ro jo le ten cha do sa re se
Hade chare?
콩 반복 말아 레빈 도바치나 곰 자네 대한 페이 로야올레 곰chen 된도 대한선 대한로와 텐리레바 요스게 지나라 이나 다 중앙 경제 자가 롭종 칭반다만 로지도 세 총사 말에 초 동chen 함도 동바 친보 제 단위 책서 요주래 동바 친보 근데 가래에서도 화 페이 로야올라 강바 도 마토바치 화 페이 로야올레 가래에서 로고야 我真想呢，人看都是那多。고소해.
So when Rejungba, he wanted to go to India to study the Dharma. Rejungba, yeah, Rejung, right? Yeah, Rejungba. So he wanted to go to India to learn the Dharma, and Milarepa did not really consent, and he said that I hope for you to become a great meditator who really gains some certainty in meditation, but instead you're just following your words, so you're running on your shoes, which is basically like you kind of empty shoes, and you never really return to your homeland. So basically Milarepa expressed his discontent that he really wanted to go to India but didn't stay to practice.
我真的让七万节前，最起码从头年吧，都被工钱那讲，今天开七万当样啊是，那个那几前几个车模给叫现在起是啦，但是俺七万节有现在这出了样这样，但我们家说现在我们这家的呢，反正七万七次的话路当嘛，穷去做，做着呀，去那嘛是噻，但咱们这毛不在给我说的他，
你出来哎。
我这出了过学的，他咱们这没过学的，他干过学的，其他国家过学的，他做着呀，要嘛吧？他开始过呢，然后他好像这基本上在可能一家拉什么过给的，他这是往做过给的。我听对他这种那英文嘛不借用的，那英文嘛不借用的，真的在给就现在现做给的，是的，你嘛那没那地方这种，那他在路当头吧？这个是国际有嘛，然后他俺那做这个嘛，但在嘛不在过学的这。
And then great meditators fear death and exert themselves for the next life, releasing the activities of this world, yet their virtuous activities are held back by minor concerns. So a meditator, a practitioner may fear death and then decide to go practice in isolation, completely giving up all worldly activities, go to the mountains to meditate. So in a sense, they gave up the kind of the great many activities of this world. But then there's all these minor activities and they are really endless. it's not like they come into retreat and then they don't need anything. Then they still need different things, even though they're in retreat. For example, you need a fireplace, you need pots, you need something to cook your tea in. You almost like you need to have a little home for yourself there, just like at home. You need all kinds of things there. And then again, a lot of distractions again arise. And when that arises, then the virtuous activities are held back by these minor concerns. Milarepa, for example, gave up all worldly activities completely. And of course, we are not able to remotely even do that because wherever we go, we need all sorts of different things. And because of that, that always hinders our virtuous activities. So.
就是没来的话，俺妈他查的说光家去的，现在他没开始错了。他光那光忙不家，那几天出去忙不用啥的，啥叫先把钱找个上。他怕说光怎么钱多，这年都少我贵啥？怎么钱多，怎么这破怕的，从这人这大这块的，怎么弄大气啥的，差多。这差从怎么拿了少我可我怎么拿几多下？这光我他少我啥有点啥。 那个啥呀？这咱们那个这那下多可能少我的，我这没来的别，但哪里有那边那个咱们也有是的，对他那下吧没他凶是的，老婆没他老婆凶松是，我这他下吧各地去是的没来的不的，我有那边的咱们说，现在他那下松是没他老婆凶是，我这各地去是我听着中多。
And so when Milarepa was practicing in Takataso, though he thought that at some point he thought that if I stay here for too long, then eventually a lot of people will come around and then I will like fall sway to those 8 worldly concerns. And so he decided it's better if I go somewhere else, and so then he decided to go somewhere else, and he packed up and he had this clay pot, and so when he picked up the clay pot, the handle like string sort of it broke off, and then the clay pot fell down, and it broke. And so into many pieces, into earth, and so then he thought that this is just what we are. Our human existence is just like that. We are just like made of clay, like piece of earth, and he thought that this pot, this clay pot, was a great teacher to me, a great teacher. In impermanence. So.
Yeah, then that's in the water. When by Gumlo Chijam, who need to my son, when Nimbo Nasia Juan, and Gina Tross, my share of a thing is some Lomian Slando. That may be near the Gumkatina, Gomsiana, the Chore, Lamare, the Mohuya, Majumachi, or then the Nasia Jes about this Galacavores. Most Gina Tross, my George, what a Gina say. Them Gajoria was Chico Zamna. 见眼把头主要学个嘛是，等眼上坡老面是，我那个我们的家是不是这样呢？见眼主要学个多少嘛？但那边那些地方在现在可是我们的家属哦，他让日本都上边的，那见眼在提红的提纲了，刚眼在提红的，这个来可不有的，我的。听说下边，他别讲的是，我说这那处，他在别我们家，等于这要我们家的对呀，有点的就嘛，马在没往那着，在没这7年吧，是别讲的7年吧，这拉那，哈，先把这等下个来，我这抢对的那他你们也不嘛就大的，是他今年那超什么，就是今年吧，他提的，今年吧穷的他妈吧，是他今年穷的他妈吧，是没来的费，看我们都去出发的，今年吧穷的他妈吧，老了看恰恰他说通，我们这不去的。 这样嘛，提供的他妈把的，是来香港，我这那多少年的，我这这样的，马家的咱们在边边的，垃圾包的，我是你们都咱们，真的，这样子提供啊，他妈把下的是吧？这个来很多啊。
Mhm. Mhm. Then it says, though one meditates in solitude, if one is not pierced by devotion, one will not be able to give rise to confidence in the meaning of the essence. You may practice, meditate in solitude, but then if in your mind no real devotion arises, then it will be very difficult for real confidence in your practice to arise. So you may think that, for example, that means that you may think I'm a good practitioner. So it says, even if you believe you're experiencing good samadhi, if it is not a support for all conditions, one lacks understanding of interdependence, such that not all experiences will arise as virtue. So this means that, so you may be in this isolated place and you are meditating and you think that it's going really well. I'm practicing, my practice is going really well. But then when something difficult happens, a negative condition arises, you're not able to practice with it. It does not actually become a support for your practice. And so it's easy to think for us, oh, meditation is going really well, I'm meditating. But then often it happens that at the moment it gets a little bit difficult, we are in trouble again. So, for example, somebody says something to us, insults us, or kind of, does something that that really upsets us. Then immediately, when they say that, that immediately makes us feel really uncomfortable, and that feeling is a sign that the practice is actually not that good. Because the point of practice is to make everything practice difficult circumstances. And not just to practice when things are going well, and then become ordinary again when things are when it gets difficult. Milarepa, that's what he said to Rajungpa. He said that, you know, when you are basking in the sun with a full belly, you proclaim to be a Dharma practitioner. But the moment it gets difficult, you are back to being ordinary. So this is really what happens. We may isolate ourselves and seem to be really good practitioners, but then the moment we encounter some difficulty, we are back to being completely ordinary. So.
저는 다 가담 개개인이 게시 제유세제요라 게시 제유 어때 건보바 개타라 말와 어때 건보바 다스 판로를 가타라 말아래 반지엔로를 가서 테두 나 담와스나로 치제 슈리스 어때 담와스나로 치제리 다 나로 메타라 투제 곰스 투제 곰스 어때 메타 어때 니모 인디칸 차바서 제 현자 총으로 그래서 제 곰토나 어때 치바 메타 고미야 배 개침보레스年的话，动的那，但我那他stage没事。我真的基本上没他这，我们都人就看去吃吧，现在全部用个嘛来是，但是就嘛一般这个就是不用特别的是，但是针对其他什么都那么他其他光嘛做不大的这种多。
So there was in the past a Kadampa Geshe who was Gambopa's teacher, guru, and upon parting, Gambopa requested from him one essential instruction. And this Geshe Chayu, he said that the one instruction that is important is to remember impermanence. If you remember impermanence, then any like undharmic, unwholesome activity will naturally disappear, because if you think about impermanence, there will be less a clinging attachment to those worldly affairs. There is no greater instruction than this. This instruction is like my heart. If you think about impermanence, then just naturally you will be able to abandon non-dharmic activities, because you will eliminate the clinging attachment to worldly affairs. And so did juk la khare I'm with that.
아,
Juk la khare.
가세?
Juk la tama khare sung sung.
아, 다, 제스나 아우사르, 제네, 가세나, 제 야고, 제 메타고, 제 지금 제가 로 먼저 레디스,现在我演从当嘛，做那메타고嘛，做大的是，
Yeah. I couldn't stop writing. And then he said that so if you practice but you don't really think about impermanence, and so therefore you are unable to give up mundane the concern for these mundane activities, it's a sign that you have not really practiced impermanence.
哦，真的点点去找吧，马哥，那就那给叫们家位，让种一些书法种么些，是我的，点点去找吧，他点点去找吧，可可是，这给叫吃什么是呢？我他点点是知道，在这是几个钟是中多啊，点点是你说的是点点那样子，有的这个你，点就觉得，那就没给了，点那这个的东岸重要哈，这给完了，点这个台湾重要，我这是偏最怕脚头嘛的是。给吧没给就样着，没给吧就这样，他就用个嘛的，就没错是，没给吧就他就从嘛的是我，但他就可能存在钱不在的是，就咱们地的过过的，身体那个过过要开心不的是，我他就这些年不，掐的有是点点的，点点我这东西的总是吧噻，点点这吧嘛用呗，我不知道说嘛点点这种嘛错呗，穷干用，这些点点东西嘛错呗，穷干用不嘛一些这种是吧？
Go khare sung sung.
然后他点嘛，做球员嘛的是，这点我东巴的是，东巴嘛做球员嘛的是，懂了吧？当然，罗呀，我是罗嘛。
So then here next it says the one lacks understanding of interdependence. So it is understanding of interdependence here. So Jigten Sumgun said that for interdependence there's two parts to it. There's the cause and there's the result of something. So, and that is unfailing. So he said that if the cause is unvirtuous, the result will be suffering, and if the cause is virtuous, the result will be happiness, and that can't change. So what's really non-virtuous is not going to lead to happiness, and what's virtuous is not going to lead to suffering. So it cannot be interchanged. That's the law of interdependence. He said that's the great law of the Dharma, of all phenomena. And so therefore it's important to heed this law. And so in terms of its essence, the essence of interdependence, so interdependent origination, is emptiness. And Nagarjuna explained that so there's nothing that arises without a cause, and there's nothing that is not dependent on something else. And so because everything is dependent on something else and not self-sufficient, all things are empty. That's the emptiness of interdependence. So
哦，真的，他真的点题那路嘛错，那这先切家活的，切我的菜呗，给叫去拖不坚持了，是吧？这点题也我嘛些，那你们俩都也不起嘛拖吧起，现在你们俩在一起对，这那路题也我过嘛做起，真的，这个来卡给叫拖不坚，这坚你嘛这个吃了，来了我这怕坚你把这说嘛叫那个的是。
And then so then if so one the order is just different. So if one lacks the understanding of interdependence, then it is easy to be deceived by the exhaustion of mental activity. And so if one doesn't understand interdependence, basically if one is unable to practice properly, perfectly, then one will not really understand the nature of mind, what the nature of all things, and not really understanding that, the practice then just becomes exhaustion and a mental exhaustion. And also it is very easy for you then to become caught up in a negative circumstance. So
我真的当时人都全拉不开就把当娘娘去多换没别多往看看，这趟一个别么马叉刚样，可是弄把马托，他把产品这个就没事，是啦多的，我到全拉不就把这里，到全拉就把的研究去当马做光过去的，但研究当马这光过去的，但这趟这呢全拉就把这，但是说娘娘去。娘娘去请他们去把事拉过来，娘娘请他去把成都娘娘请他，娘娘他多把米，所以这么要不娘娘买进那这但菜的忙不在钱啊，这个娘娘多把过来看过来，是这娘娘，对，东开是东乡这样子，多乡呢在就是呀喏，东乡呢这一句话讲呢，东在但咱们的东亚我这忙的边，咱们的这国的咱们这忙不有的话，我这说东开呢，这趟一直是我这去，一直是一个吃下别下。别往马叉刚样是帮别几个操我学我这些呢，可落地可里啊，那么马托，提给别下忙不在个，是吧？这前面这个穷是个嘛的是，穷个嘛吧的，那我真的可能我这几岁没来的吧？对，这种这个送，真的这个嘛来是，但这种俺家的说的话。俺家是这个这价格啥的，咱们这没哪里做这之类。你呢？他那种这得想我啥的，我特别晓得做，他妈没加上啥的。这提起的，这你妈在这种情况，他去年呢说是，这没吃没当过是。提起的，真的这种去年送的跑干的了，你们帮干这些多，这汤全部下，这个讲这穷多讲他了。讲出这讲出去了讲嘛这讲出你可以不给人家把所谓然后这讲嘛家不家是差不多现在过这么大的哈其实这听着这种这么大的了吧
讲的开始都
讲些大的我就有啊我对了俺不讲这了啥的吧
大的
我大的我这我讲了不然后了这大就有啊我这下这不解决有啥了？这不解决的，这里这不这的，阿妈听你给不解决的，他讲写卡了哇。我写的几不解决的几卡了哇，听着忙的忙这，说讲阿妈家的不加卡是多，不加。
阿妈家。
不加。
不加。
他就两家不接的哇。
没两脑了。
那这种可能他在民主的追上来，从多多了。这种这点没大的话，是听这说的这讲什么？讲可在提上来的多多。
干啥生？
讲可有的讲可。
讲可。
讲什么？这讲可在把提是多。
可啥生？
提上是讲什么？初提前讲可在就上是。这多上的这种他有人不过是这现在没来的陪，搞中当的这这么多。呀，这没来的陪给他。这种电把时间了培养别下有呢，看到去那不多其实，电把时间没培养的弄别下有那你没加东西是听着可能电视弄大很多，下次学开些差很多，下次学的开些差很多，下次说没来的陪没加，对，这种对不对？学会什么看多他也别加的。在前面加不多少的上，2人的话就特别是如果东北人多，他要马上看路去是吧？晓得，这种工作啥他就没别想看到我那么多，晓得那边没来这边，当然就推脱去马上是，你就让写手啥的咱不送是，在写手呢真的俺别想过样嘛都是，个原因都是都是，在人家没加当的这了。
And so another story of Milarepa. So, and Milarepa, he went to India, and then he returned back to Tibet, and so he brought all of these texts back to Tibet, and he also had some pride with him, and. So he met again with Milarepa, and so then they so Milarepa said, so I'm going to make a fire soon. So why don't you go in the meantime and fetch some water? And so then Rinpoche left to fetch some water. And so then as he was out there fetching water, and he had this kind of a vision, and in this vision he saw a kind of a wild horse that like had a kind of had a child give birth, and then it increased into more and more and more, and then it and so then he kind of observed this spectacle of the wild horse, and then all of these. Then there were 100 wild horse mothers and 100 wild horse babies, and then a wolf appeared. So as one of them then transformed into a wolf, and then that wolf chased away all of the other wild horses, and then they ran away. And so that was the vision that he had, and so then after he had that vision, all of a sudden he realized, oh. It must be late now. I've been distracted. I better get back quickly, or I will be scolded. So then he made his way back home. And so meanwhile, while he was out there having his vision, Milarepa actually decided to burn his texts. And so, because most of his texts were black magic texts, and Milarepa spoke some words of supplication to the Dakinis, and he said that if there's anything there in those texts that actually benefits the teachings, let them not burn, but anything that's useless for the teachings, may it all burn. And so then most of it basically burned, and so then the texts were burning, and so Rinpoche was on his way back, and he could smell the smoke of burning paper. And he thought, is that my texts that are burning? And so then he came back, and he saw that he saw some of his texts lying there, like kind of open and burned. And he felt this moment of rage, of anger arising in him. And he felt that these are my texts. Where have my texts gone? What happened to my texts? And then Milarepa said, well, I sent you to fetch some water, but it took you so long. So I thought that you had died. And so because I thought that you're dead, I have no use for these texts because they're just a distraction. So I thought I'm just going to burn all of these useless texts. What took you so long?
that's interesting. That's tene ta khurza nomba ma to jum si tene jum den de pe dur jian chang yan chi ne nyam nyong to kwa ju ma chi ba dam nga yu som sang ji sam ji ye be xiong nam ga ju lam ma nam ji tu gong chao ji mo zong do ta dur jian chang ta te war nyam na chi chen ju ma chi ba ta te za we la ma nyam na chi nyam nyong ta to kwa ju ma chi ba dam nga tu som sang ji sam ji dan ro se lam ga na yes ga ju lam ma nam ji tu gong. What is that?
And then coming back to the text, so the fivefold path encompasses the unceasing experience and realizations manifest from the exalted Vajradhara until now. So from Vajradhara up until the present Guru, it encompasses the experience and realization of all these masters, and these being the what is it? Oh, did I mention it before? The Sinlabdikubang at Layo Samare So yeah, sorry, I've made my notes a little bit wrong here, but I forgot one part here. So without the blessing of the lineage and exceptional realization, all the writing in the many texts will become but excess baggage, devoid of the fruit of liberation and omniscience. So the blessings of the lineage and experiential realization. So this lineage is referred to as the practice lineage of blessings, because and it is through practice that it is passed on, and through practice that the blessings are received. And so if one doesn't actually do the practice well, but one just focuses on words, so then all the writing in the many texts become just excess baggage. So they just become a heavy load to carry. For example, there's all kinds of texts and things that we may recite, different recitations, pujas, or divinations like Mos, or astrology and this and that. So there's all kinds of texts. These texts will not lead to liberation. They just become heavy baggage. And so then the fivefold path encompasses the experience and the realization of all the past masters, starting from Vajradhara. And it is the path of the Buddhas of the 3 times. It is the intention and the tradition of all the Kagyu gurus, for all the Kagyu masters. So.
then got you come to get on Yamna Chit, the Jimba, Res, EQ, Hunam, Chit, and the Tendua, the no Rimbos, Che, Sontan, Jude, Shiki, Dama Bondi, Zondota, the no Zonk, the no Rimbos on Nimbo, the Jude, Shiki, Chuma, Dama Bondi, or that in Lagoranato. Jinbo Chancho Sam said that Duke Nimbo, the Chancho Samples. Or the Zanga Nimbo, the Yedamres. Or the Sanga Nimbo, Yedam, Yontan Nimbo, Lamas, Roba, Yontan Nimbo, the Lama Roba, Nelo Nimbo, Chada Chimbo, Gomba, Tab the Nimbo, Mova Chiba, Tab the Nimbo, Mova Chiba. What a Nimbo Nas, and another dance, what a Nimbo Nga. Jude she Chung, Sidama upon the lease, what that Dama upon the ease on what. What then you can look at that Dama Manga Mambo, in Dama upon the non Mandula me, on what. What they Dama upon the Sanjay Jumden, Chu Mambo, Dama upon the Chung upon the Mandu de Miss.
What changes some Gyuginbo, Gyura,
Nimbo, Chancho Sam?
The Gyu Devo Gyura.
Already just had about Chancho Sam then, that's about the younger one.
Yeah, so it is the intention and tradition of the Kagyu gurus and the essence of the precious 3 Pitakas and the extract of the 4 Tantras. So it is said that the fivefold path is the practice and the intent of all the past Kagyu masters. And it is the essence of the Pitakas. The 3 Pitakas are the 3 the scripture collections, and it is the essence of the 4 Tantras. And it is also said that the essence of the cause is bodhicitta. Of cause and effect, the cause is bodhicitta. The essence of Vajrayana, the secret mantra, is the yidam. And the essence of qualities is the guru practice. And the essence of the natural state is Mahamudra. The essence of skillful means is dedication. So that's the fivefold path. And Jigten Sumgön has said that in general, the Buddha taught many countless dharmas, many countless teachings, but all of these teachings are included in the fivefold path. So there is no teaching other than the fivefold path.
Then that's it. There's on the things taught Namte or the Satchel, Ye Chari, Yon the Shincha, Salot and Dulu, Nanyan to Masoma, Jesman, Yamna Kichi, son daughter. That the Yamna Ninu, the Chigores. Carson got on sometimes they jang, but she only on Yamna to Yodo. What it Chimbo, that Nam Tell not tears on the Rasa Yona, or the what shake Kadma was cherry. That in Yamna on do what is that? Now the auntie Yamnati over the Joes on the Tipangamas, that Yamnati can check what it is. Now, Niman, Zone, the point she was. Kong, Yama, Temana. Show yourself. The Teman did it, the Teman, some chimbo show your jobs on. Or some chimbo they do that Lama J. Tombo to the mobile, this true, or thế đúng rồi mà chú sao làm mà chim bột làm mà lấy là mà đấy à làm mà tên chú đấy sao thế đúng rồi cũng đã khởi lên đấy sao phải cũng nhắm lên chỉ đi sao làm gì sao đó là tí cái我在等等我这趟啊，中间呢，提纲了，其中的经验分析是判多出了。怎么样？他的是看啊，这种的提分开出来，提分析呢，给我啥的？我这他提纲了，你们去过的是。我真的这路人是吧？这那位年这路嘛吧，就是张过嘛的是，我在中央部的你们去好。我这路张过嘛的是的，是这路人是来这有了3年部的路这张过嘛，你们讲了开清部的是。
And then it says, where were we? Yeah, so thus, even should the sky fall and the ground crack apart, even if rocks should fall from the right side and trees splinter from the left, it is crucial to practice this fivefold path without following idle chatter, such as some said this and others did that. So now the point here is that you should practice continuously. You sustain an ongoing state of practice, no matter what happens. You keep practicing, because sometimes it happens that we do practice, but then something happens, and then we just take a little break from it, and then we stop practicing, and then we come back to it. So the point here is that no matter what happens, if the ground cracks open, the sky falls down, you keep practicing. There's one story I remembered from my retreat master, Drupal Yeshe. He once was in Taiwan, and while he was there was a major earthquake, and so there were other lamas and so on, and they were all inside. And so when the earthquake happened, actually many of those high lamas, they all escaped, they ran out. And Drupal Yeshe, he didn't stand up, he didn't get up. He just thought, yeah, whatever happens, I'm just gonna keep practicing. I will not get up for this earthquake. So he just stayed practicing. If one is able to do that, then one is able to overcome obstacles, difficulties when things get difficult. If not, if we just sometimes we do some practice a little bit, and then we let it go again, and then when something happens, it goes out the window, and then we come back again, then it will be very difficult for us to overcome obstacles when they arise. And then so it says here then, so without following idle chatter, such as some said this and others said that. So that means practice the Dharma of those words. There's no need to follow all these words and to cling to all these concepts of the Dharma terminology and so on. Don't get caught up in that, what they say and so on, but just focus on the practice. So.
真的，你嘛，我他好的，我说不会的是中着，这种年牙高的有啊，真的么就中药药了，晓得你嘛，我说俺们这个他就有呢，对，真的900年有的是9年有了，我这900年有的是，这900年不是实际卡得学啥了哇？这所在看到那俺那你不9年着推出的了解，但中国是会让老的是。这老的是有的900年才来的是9年的，对了，比这次是高的是，同样有嘛的是，这同样没对是呢，这个咱可能就送这对的是，咱用啥嘛的上，这就送对的是，这就送对的，这大碗我不接了，都是大熊的，没大碗我不接，大碗不接的是，
大碗不，
没是大碗不熊的，没接了都是。 그 좋은 지들 되네 다 치, 나도 루일을 제 표로지 있어 루일 제 표로지 가서는 나도 루일을 나서도 가서 자 세면 좋은 다 나한테 점로도 그렇지 스테를 나와야지 되네 그 야야 제 되네 그 조성 데이들이 되네 조성 제 데이셔도 조 차서도 나 연구를 나를 스테 조성 되네 문트 조성데 조 차서도 다와 동양도 시자자 동양도
하루 동안도.
大阶段的学历学怎么样都是
음.
有嘛是看呀，他可能推说是吧？
음.
要这个的系列是干嘛？他可能如果的拉说是吧？这这就罗的嘛去哪接不是他的噻？
아니 ropa laso eh.
如果拉说噻，这个在学的呀，人罗是罗的嘛去哪接边没有什么说呢？他推说你们俩嘛就说你们俩上进，
음. Dico dico disco dico ko dopo della coupe gabla ropa della deni ko ta un po' che mi ci lapso ma teni di lui la
完了他这个吧，初步的第国务的哇， 好像你不推出这做这，咱们怎么样去的哇？ 推出这个这一次那不就这一点同样有嘛哇？ den 同样没对他，他现在马来对他过去送我噻，我可能那票嘛，那可能就送我噻，哇，都就这些得讲出来了，到晚我不就来不到说噻，哦，这那对他去旅游票去的哪里噻？这那对他个，可他就送出对面没多少噻，哇，
한번 쳤던 데니 lui la
哦，就他不就弄这的接多少噻，哇，那就送出的同样看样没到说噻。
당원 부대 부대.
到晚我看样没到说噻，的，可能如果这些拉死的，这里嘛罗说的去哪？ 然后到晚我不但人吹送来差不多就是了，我晓得，个
ropa lui la 조선 삼선.
旅游见着对嘛，这去哪接说的了？ 可是呢，个就马查空嘛，罗送配件这里写着说啥了可能，就查啥的有什么了？个这啥就了，你们俩提纲了，但你们俩提纲多过的那么多才呢，都写那是，你们两个不的去年的都写那中等批查，原天成就是那么多，就是我这成就啥的，你们俩提纲了都写那，这中这种块，原天就是啥。
da ina yang ti ko ti tawa ti dang ropa tin rava khare yore.
这样他就可蛮多去了。
re da ti tu be
他超过你有的是就这学的是，
ti ti sha ba ko son tawa ngompo ba le
那
par
当然我不他接的哇，
嗯
这就这样去的做这跟咱们，但可能你不撒家卡的学啥的哇，
ale
做这跟咱们那个你不推出地讲了，你们就这个是其他的学，是哪的用过是哪的是，没你有了可能超过这的，
sacha chik pala yung gore tu
我
gore.
推出几块地讲那个你们做，这里你们就用过是，好可种哎，
ina ropa de mazong.
我这超过它同样嘛都是对不对？ 这是国我啥的哇个，这是国度这来什么都是。 这马来对他呢，这可能就东来是，他可能就过没有嘛了。这种东西得讲，这台湾我不进来的是。这其他旅游这不多，其实我说旅游你那是都讲到去给人都是多，其实哪的是。这那对真的可以，但就从这对面没多咱们送有嘛的是。这就从这对真台湾有嘛是看样同样嘛是。 这可能如果咱同样嘛是在今天那来不接不行了，就是那俺来不用那就是哇个。俺嘛不会那确实我这个有嘛吧，推出他确实是没打是这个有嘛吧。如果他俺来不啥子在今天做啥呢？就是那嘛去呢。过了比。
I dropo tiran drava ya bago so me do ti dropo den ti ko chut nyamna se cha de ni dropo chu na chip song de ni.
嘛，他嘛，他下是嘛那那啥，这个从那嘛弄的，可是老那别跟啥学吃啥的。呀，他下啊。
I understand this last part of the story.
呀，他这当时美国都吃了蛮多啊。
ti na juk la khare re ti
他中国这的可能就娘子呀，啥些在吃着啊。
ti ta go chama ha ko song ina juk la ni tawa ko nyamna
就那中国人同接了来不要嘛，人同样要嘛的，在今那去那接不说啥的，是接起呢。
ti sam ga kyum chen khare re.
这可能台湾我
对
不说，台湾我不这说从推送的确定啥的话，轮着我在说哪里，说的听说在这个但我不在说那么去哪见着是吧？
Mm.
要他下什么都什么都，这毛我那从大没的是可给的，呀，真的咋成的？
Perfect. Sorry, I don't get it.
呀，真的我不娘是那些，去年等于都是呢，中他们去用天他是我，但是去我不的，但提出的说的，我在去我不的，呢，要不是那真的，那提纲都是那真的，中他们去他，中看到我那怕他那个是，从用天他们去用个的是，我在马路上这是，
I'm sorry, there was this story that it was a bit confusing. I don't understand the last part, so the two says don't tell it. So if one can understand the practice of the fivefold path and the rest in the Dharmata, all faults will be transformed into good qualities and all obstacles into attainments. So if one understands the point and one continues the practice, then all faults will be purified and all qualities arise.
但今天中午去我不的，咱们俩去过的是，这个叫去，那个叫去用的，他全把满人话去的，但咱们俩去过的是开车啊，开不的是，我真的。 7월 또在诺基在花西青年的咱们那这今嘛我用个地方啊，甚至那把穷呢，我也就是举证过的是，特别举证过的是马托，我真的起码那跑先别偏个嘛的是，我真的真的给就是他举证啊，开钱不的送多。
And so Jiten Sungen had said that this is what you need to practice without distraction. It's this fivefold path. And no matter what obstacle, difficulty arises, because obstacles and difficulties arise. But at that time, you should remember your practice and sustain mindfulness. There is no benefit in having all kinds of other thoughts about it. It's important to maintain the practice.
我真的在这里嘛，真多花起，我这不是去那世界多点强给。 各种土堂也没把球玩意，是在花起，在上在花起头头穷的，天哪，你们俩去头呢？这多花样的，可能偏这个的是，我都人强恐怕球的是，这对没来的怕这说成人性啊，这穷途点，我真的穷途提纲，你们俩讲送的真的，多花这空的偏图偏多有啥的哇？我这里是，一边是。
And so obstacles turn into attainment and to accomplishments. So when obstacles arise and you are able to continue the practice, then actually these obstacles become conducive. They actually increase your experience and your realization. For example, in Milarepa's story, when he first encountered those 5 Tsering sisters who challenged him, as spirit apparitions, he practiced, he sustained a state of practice, and this is how his realization increased.
真的这那样是，唐伯可能的现在其他的上台个前进都啊，这不这样没办法。其实我但唐伯可能，但你们俩其实咱们呢，现在现在的这说每年的我 top 课上，这用的咱们说要不巧的，其实咱们这当就嘛是你们俩其他的，对吧？不这没办法，其实我这你们俩是古农的要不巧个嘛的，这古农的你们俩是要不巧个嘛的是。 真的才买几把钱，那差不多100年是，100年是那100年那它是龙牙一双在花几千年吧，你们俩区别花几千年吧，100年，我真的这些投入是那他投入是了，才这样子，投入是说你们俩去呢，你嘛，但开始投入是你们俩去学的，投入是呢，但他这毛不有拉不着，但他这毛不最近但他这用的让的洗脑的，这是有了，这有的，那你们俩看了，这你们俩去投票了，偏多有啥的。 我投入他是拿出，是我在拿出，新拿出，他这忙不在新增就说直接不了有啥的，这新进的是普通是，但普通是之后东把他这，我真是有了，我真是他们好像拿做弄的啥事，我在好像拿做弄的啥事，我在你妈的开些的就用人自己，若他这其实他们都就用人自己若投入加上这样子，我这投入加上是若全面加上若在你妈就把他投入其实他们都，我这人对真的在好像他们的。 弄学啥？等于现在讲的把这些做 娘们个家属呀，就有啥是啥事，另外一什么节奏，见到好就像你们讲是娘什么，说的，另外一种的节波穷难的，多波穷难的，见人把开的穷难，见人把上波开的穷难。我这你们见上波人那个就没，我这人把这都给没我这，我这你是没把的，上眼你是没把，但是这个的实际上这块的咱们这些娘是哪个是哪的是？
And then it says, first, there should appear not so much as a hair tips of concern for the goals and achievements of this life. One should proceed to a solitary place, such as a cemetery and so forth. So first, this this term of isolation. So first of all, we may encounter different conditions. First you think I'm going to practice well, the first point here is that we should not do that with a concern for this life. So, for example, if you think if I practice well, I'm going to have a good reputation, or I'm going to be really powerful. Everyone will think I'm great. We shouldn't have any of such intentions. And practice well. Then isolation is place of solitary place here is a place where we can practice without an obstacle to body, speech, and mind in terms of practice. But then, so there is certain solitary places where we do trigger difficulties, such as a cemetery, a forest, sheltering tree, or empty cave, and so forth, where one's positive and negative habits will inevitably surface. So some people, they practice in like cemeteries, at charnel grounds. It is said that in charnel grounds are inhabited by a lot of ghosts and spirits. And it's a bit of a scary, frightening place. And so people, truth practitioner, for example, go there deliberately for practice to trigger some of their deeper habits, imprints. Or one may go to a forest or into an empty cave and so on. For example, there are some truth practitioners, there's this tradition of going to 100 charnel grounds and 100 springs, and it is at in those places, all of one's deep lying habits and the patterns will arise to the surface. And it is there, if one is able to sustain practice at that time, it will really help one's practice advance, because no matter what happens, one sustains practice. So one should practice unifying whatever conditions of happiness and suffering arise in body, speech, and mind into the state of non-duality. So we encounter good and bad things, difficult circumstances. Whatever happens has to become one, like non-dual. Meaning that we are not overly excited about good things happening or very upset about negative things happening. It all becomes even. So.
야, 안타 ngazo tada te sui tene dozi chiro wa chu ni bala.
We stop here for now and we meet again at 2 p.m.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jupanla. Thank you, Ina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lama. See you at 2 p.m.
See you at 2 p.m.
Okay. Thank you, Ina.